All right, let's do it live on a Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau Gibby along for the ride. How are you, pal?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. It's Monday. The weather sucks, but it looks like it sucks for our boy down in the Keys, too. Dealing with some rain and wind.
Boy, there's nothing worse than that. I know you dealt with that when you did your golf trip. I've dealt with that. There was a time we went to Florida a couple of years ago, and you're banking, you're looking at that forecast, you're praying that you get the days, and you end up not getting. There's nothing worse than that. And there's no guarantees. There's no. I guess the only place it's really guaranteed is like the Phoenix area, like Scottsdale. You're pretty much guaranteed that you're not going to get washed out. You're going to have rain. I mean, you could have cooler temperatures, but you're not going to get washed out. You should have sun, and that's the one thing that can happen down in Florida that you can avoid out west.
Yeah, I mean, that's at least for the most part, you're going to get. It's going to be warm. You'll be in shorts.
Yeah.
You'll be comfortable. Knock on wood for them. The rain will move out, but I don't think it's moving out of here anytime soon. I feel like we're going to get tomorrow, and that's going to be it. The rest of the week, not so great.
Listen, I feel like I had it. I told you as great as March was going to be, we were going to pay a punishment for it at some point, and it just might be like from now until the middle of May where it's like this every day, just rainy and gross. That might be in play. I will not forget how great March was, however. How much of the I know we'll get to our Masters breakdown at the bottom of the hour, but was it something that was prime in your viewing over the weekend, Gibby?
You know what? I had worked it out entirely. If my wife's listening, I'll get in trouble later, but it's past the fact, so I mean, it's the champion's prerogative at this point.
That's right.
I manipulated the system. I looked at the schedule. I said, look, I was able to watch it on Thursday and Friday when I was here in the office working.
Yeah.
And great. Had it on, no problem. I knew I was probably going to take the L on Saturday. Nice weather. I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to golf on Saturday. The wife's got some projects outside that we need to get done. I'll get to it, knowing full well that at some point on Sunday it was going to rain. And if I timed it just right, I was going to be indoors. And, well, if I'm indoors, I might as well just watch the Masters. And that played out the way I hoped it did.
It did. It was, I wish there was a little more drama to it. I think when Schauffele went in the water on 16, that was the end of it. It would have been fascinating if Hideki would have had to make a few shots in the last couple of holes. He really didn't. He could play very conservatively and win. One of the beautiful things of working the time that I did in Columbus is I worked for the CBS affiliate, and we had the Memorial Tournament on our air. In addition to that, we were owned by the Wolf family, who owned the Columbus Dispatch and were major power players in Central Ohio, and they loved the Memorial Tournament. And so what that meant when I worked at the CBS affiliate in Columbus is that we loved the Memorial Tournament. And so we were there as a sports operation. We were there from Sunday the week before all the way through the week, and then we would leave, Sunday. It was a long week. It was a ton of work. It was a long week, but in the end it was pretty cool. You really got to see what a PGA Tour event was like over the 8 years that I covered it. Got to know Jack Nicklaus, got to do a lot of really cool things through it. But the one thing that was in my mind was Hideki Matsuyama when he was winning yesterday. And the reason it was in my mind is he won the Memorial Tournament. It was one of his first really big wins was the Memorial Tournament a few years ago down in Dublin. And what I will never forget is the media throng surrounding him. So it was like you've seen the images of like Ichiro or some of those guys where it looks like they've got their own traveling media around them. And that's what was around Matsuyama. There must have been 20 members of just the Japanese press followed his every move. Like he would go to the range, 20 people would go with him. Like it was as much as any media throng was around anyone, including Tiger. Like it was his own, because they didn't care about Tiger. They only cared about him. So whatever he did, they documented. It was really wild for somebody who did not have the resume, obviously, that Tiger Woods had. But he was the chosen one. Rest assured, he was the chosen one. And so for him to win, that was, you think of the pressure of winning for yourself, for your family, but to win for a country, which is what he did yesterday, that incredible poignant moment of his caddy bowing to the course after placing the flag pin back in 18 was so moving. I just thought, boy, to be that unflappable. And I think when you saw him, in the green jacket, like put his coat on and kind of finally exhale, you probably saw right there the relief of a country worth of pressure on your shoulders.
Yeah, and he had some tests. He put himself in a few perilous positions on that back nine. But he made the shots when he needed to. That shot out of the sand on 18, when the meltdown was going on the par 3 16 with his playing partner, he just he just stuck to his process, and he did what he had to do to win the tournament. And I felt bad. Like, there's always that moment, like when you when you come off the green, like you're hugging your wife, your kids, and like to not have his family there, you could just tell he was kind of lost because there was no one to hug. There was no one,
right?
And he never gave the putter to his caddy. He just carried his putter. He's like, all right, well, this is my best friend right now, so I'm just going to take this to the clubhouse.
Yeah, and so you get 2 Masters in about a 6-month period, which is pretty crazy. But it was great. I thought the drone video was amazing. And maybe they had that in November. I can't remember, but it was stunning to see. The undulation of the course and the change, certainly in just the depth of the course, was seen through those. It was very, very cool. As we get into the OBM Hot Topics, Ohio Business Team, preferred copy provider of your Cleveland Browns, all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000. Visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. So in the file it under We Can't Have Nice Things, at least in the time we're on the show, we were all excited to talk to Jadeveon Clowney here. I was so excited for you to tell me about his house in Strongsville that he was buying, and for you to tell me about how he's walking around the building. Those things reportedly will not happen. So reportedly, Jadeveon Clowney was supposed to come in last night for a visit today. There's much conjecture around the NFL world that this potentially could lead to him actually signing on the line, which is dotted today, and that deal becoming official. Josina Anderson here in the last couple of minutes before we started the show saying that there were complications to that itinerary, and they're trying to work out a time for him to come in later in the week to come in and visit with the team. And I mean, this isn't a scores moment, kids, but I would just say he's been here once. He's coming back a second time. Draw your own conclusions to what that would likely mean. I would think that's fair to say.
Yeah, and Josina's tweet exactly from about 28 minutes ago. My understanding is there was a travel issue on the Browns' arranged second visit/physical with free agent edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney for today. Was expected to arrive late Sunday. There's hope to finalize a new booking soon, potentially midweek at this time, per sources. So all is not lost. All is not.
No.
A lot could happen. I mean, how many times are you going to write this story and have it ready to go, and you're just going to have to hold off maybe a little bit longer. So, we'll see.
Look,
we'll see
I mean,
what
it's
happens.
It's the great Glengarry Glen Ross line. Get them to sign on the line which is dotted. Like, until that happens, anything can happen until that happens. So all the signs very, very positive. Mary Kay following up with a story saying that if he does come in for a visit, there is likelihood he will sign with the Browns. Some additional notes from Mary Kay, of course, started 8 of 9 games. Didn't have a sack, but was disruptive, 6 quarterback hits. PFF ranked him as the number 19 edge rusher out of 108, a notch ahead of Olivier Vernon, of course, who suffered that Achilles at the end of last season. PFF also ranked Clowney as the number 4 free agent edge rusher this offseason behind Shaq Barrett, J.J. Watt, Carl Lawson. They want to say their estimated value is 1 year, $13 million. So that's where you are on that front. I think that what Jadeveon Clowney, and aside from talking to Joe Woods, what Jadeveon Clowney would do for the Cleveland Browns is set the stinking edge, is what he would do. And he would allow linebackers to run free and tackle. He's great against the run. He is still great at pressuring the quarterback, even if he's not getting home. He is pressuring the quarterback. Playing opposite Miles would only enhance him. And he would be really another kind of tally point for Andrew Berry going into the draft of saying, well, we don't need to get a D end at 26 now. We can take – now, it doesn't mean Kwity Paye falls to us and we love him, you take him at 26. But I think the hope for Andrew Berry is to go into the draft without needing anything. And I think if you can sign Clowney or someone similar, that would take defensive end off the table as a position of need going into the draft.
At least day one, maybe even day two.
Yeah.
I mean, you could definitely push that down to day three. It would give you 3 first-round picks at defensive end. I mean, that's
right.
2 number ones.
Takk McKinley, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that's now you've got some flexibility. And I think, don't forget, Sheldon Richardson played some defensive end for this football team and has played defensive end. So, I definitely – I mean, they have options, especially if they can bring in Clowney. I have to think that the clear-cut number one need becomes corner.
Yeah, and Z and I have been saying that for the last couple of weeks, that corner, is where we feel pretty strongly about it, 26. But I also think that they don't – I think they can approach this draft without any constraint.
I would agree.
I think you can take the very best player available. And I think when you look at our roster as a whole, you would say that is a top 5 or 6 roster in the NFL. And it is. And that's just the reality we're all going to have to get used to. It's going to be a fun thing to get used to. Congrats to our guy Hollywood Higgins. I saw this over the weekend. He got engaged and announcing he's having a baby boy as well. So that is very good to see Hollywood. Very good to see Hollywood with those type of personal accomplishments being announced over the weekend. Good job out of him, and congratulations on that front. We've got a lot to get to on the program today. Michael-Sean Dugar will join us at 1:45. He was the Seahawks reporter for The Athletic. We'll talk to him about the Hawks, their offseason, but most especially about Jadeveon Clowney as his time in Seattle. You have that to look forward to, which is nice. We will have Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, who's been all over this Clowney stuff. He will join us coming up next on that front. Before we do that, though, the 2021 NFL Draft is coming to Cleveland. It's April 29th through May 1st, and you can be part of the action at the NFL Draft Experience. It's taking place outside First Energy Stadium. The 2021 NFL Draft Experience is a free football celebration open to families and fans of all ages. Space is limited, though. Reserve your tickets today via NFL One Pass. Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, up next, off and running on a Monday. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Time now to head on the hotline for a visit with our good buddy Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, senior NFL reporter. Boy, this has been quite the flirtation with Jadeveon Clowney and the Browns going back a year ago when we were doing a lot of this stuff. He ended up going to Seattle then.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot of feeling that maybe he could be coming here now, Jeremy. What can you tell us the latest is on Clowney and the Browns?
So this has been percolating for a few weeks now, to the point where a source had told me that they were surprised this wasn't done already. And that was a few days ago. So I think I'm hearing a few different things, but one of them is that, Jadeveon Clowney, for whatever reason, despite an attractive offer last year, hasn't wanted to go to Cleveland. I don't know if it's anything personal with Cleveland or what, but it's taken some convincing. But this is a different market for him than last year. Last year he had options. This year he doesn't have as many. There's some teams that are monitoring this. The Colts, the Ravens, that would probably sign him, but not to a whole lot of money after 0 sacks and injuries last year. And just a lack of production overall the last few years. So I think it will get done with Cleveland. It might be today. It might be a week from now, but I do expect it to be done before the draft. And I think they're just trying, they clearly want him. They're just trying to make sure, A, the contract is right, and B, that he wants to be there.
Well, that's a big part of any of these things, Jeremy, is the want to be there part of it, and he has the right to be able to make that choice. We think it would be a great fit in terms of what Joe Woods wants to do defensively, playing opposite Myles Garrett. I think it would probably be a relatively short-term thing from both sides is kind of my guess on it. In terms of the fit, if he does decide that this is a place that he wants to be, in terms of in the Joe Woods defense opposite Myles, does it add up to you?
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I want to add to what I was saying, I do think last year part of the dynamic was his agent was Buff Cook, who was Myles Garrett's agent, who was working on a mega deal for Myles Garrett. So I think there was some there was some difficulty there as a result, where now Clowney has a new agent, Kennard McGuire. There aren't any sort of conflicts there, so to speak. I think that maybe paves the way for an easier deal. As far as the fit, it's pretty clear cut. They want that guy on that left defensive end spot opposite Myles. They feel like that's Clowney's natural spot. He's a good run stuffer. He creates a lot of pressure. He doesn't get sacks necessarily, but he'd probably benefit from having a guy like Myles on the other side. Maybe create some passing lanes for him, So, and I would even preclude Cleveland from drafting a pass rusher, even if they sign Clowney. And they have Takk McKinley as well. I think they just really want to bone up in that area to have good depth to give defensive coordinator Joe Woods 4 or 5 viable options there.
Jeremy, what do you make of what's been done here the last couple of years? John Dorsey before, and then Andrew Berry the last couple of years with this roster. We look at it. We don't pretend we're not biased here. The show's Cleveland Browns Daily, so we're aware of it. But at the same time, we've seen some bad football, and we see a lot of talent on this roster, and one that from our vantage point looks like it's top 7 or 8 talent in the league, top to bottom on this roster. What do you see when you look at the Cleveland Browns?
Well, they're getting there. I don't know if I'd put them top 7 to 8 yet, but it's if we talk in 2 months and they've added, a key piece like, say, a Clowney defensive end, and Grant Delpit, progresses and becomes the safety they want, get a few pieces in the draft on defense, then you're looking at probably top 7 to 8. I think they are close there. It's one of those things where, John Dorsey, even though he kind of unceremoniously left, he put together a pretty good roster. They had a few misses, but they had a lot of hits, and you're seeing the benefit there. I mean, you look at running back, Kareem Hunt might be a top 10 running back in this league, and he's the backup. So at certain spots, they're absolutely loaded. The free agent additions, like a Jack Conklin last year, worked really well, and now he's got a bookend with Jedrick Wills. So the offensive line is probably, I would say, top 7 to 8, which really helps. And they can dictate the pace of the running game. So, Odell Beckham probably with his injury would be a hard piece to trade. But I think they're bullish on him in 2021 to be that vertical threat that they need.
Yeah, certainly does seem like that would be an incredible piece to add to it, because if there was something missing, it was probably that deep threat, that game breaker on the outside, which once Odell got hurt, we just didn't quite have that. And that influences everything from passing windows, of course, being the biggest beneficiary of that. Jeremy Fowler joining us, ESPN senior NFL reporter. The job of Kevin Stefanski from your vantage point, this is a guy who came in here, had to install a new offense, did not have a traditional offseason in any sense of the way. Heck, they won a playoff game without him on the sidelines, for crying out loud, which tells you a little bit about what was done here. Played a game in the regular season without anyone ever caught a pass from Baker Mayfield in a game. Got Baker straightened out as well, and now he has a full offseason to work. As you look at the job Stefanski did in year one and what can be built upon, what do you see?
Well, you talk to veteran coaches either on the Brown staff or looking out who know Kevin or, who have worked closely with people who know him well, all those things. I mean, the reviews have been tremendous. This is a guy that's getting a lot of credit league-wide for what he did. Not just the results, but he's just got a good demeanor for it. They had a lot of arrows shot their way last year with COVID problems and people missing games and injuries, and he seems to just manage it all smoothly, And so you combine it with Andrew Berry, who's just known as a really good guy and a guy who works hard and has an analytical slant, but can identify players too. And it's been a winning marriage so far. So I think right now they're trying to put that over the top with some key pieces on defense. We talk about the roster strength. I think defensively, especially in spots with the secondary, they needed some upgrades. And so they've made a few moves with Troy Hill and some others. But for this team to get more toward true contention and getting into an AFC title game, it's going to take more, especially on that back end, to help out.
Yeah, certainly John Johnson helps with that as well, getting him from the Rams, so that you get really 40% of the best secondary in the NFL coming over in free agency. But I think you make a great point. And I think when you look at the draft, I think at 26, that's where corner comes into the mix, because with Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, you're talking about guys who have missed certainly a lot of time,
right.
and Greedy missed all of last year. So that I think you'd want to probably add to that on the outside at corner. Let's go around this division, Jeremy. I know you pay very close attention to it. And let's start in Pittsburgh, where this does, from my vantage point, this does seem like they've made some curious decisions in terms of their roster. Certainly the Joe Hayden decision to stay there and move off of some of the younger players. Ben Roethlisberger coming back. Are they in a position? They got big questions on the offensive line. Are they in position to be a contender in 2021, or is this kind of the slowly pulling the Band-Aid off for a rebuild?
Well, I think it's both. I really do, because I think you can do both. It's clearly not a full rebuild, and the Steelers will never do that. That's just not going to be their MO. If they might reset a little bit and subtly move on from some pieces, but the fact they brought Ben Roethlisberger back at a reduced rate, even though he's going to have a huge cap hit regardless, says that they still like their chances. This is a defense that was still one of the best in the league last year. Most of those pieces are back. They were clearly cash strapped in some areas. That's why you saw Steven Nelson cut. All their re-signings were at smaller money. Bud Dupree they would have loved to have kept, but they weren't even going to try. So it's one of those things where, I think if they go 8-8, people in the building there wouldn't be shocked. But this is still going to be a pretty good team. I mean, you had, despite Ben Roethlisberger's maybe regression in some areas, they still had a lot of passing yards. They still move the ball well with 4 or 5 capable receivers. The problem is the offensive line in the running game. They just haven't had that. And now you lose more offensive line pieces. Alejandro Villanueva gone. Marquise Pouncey gone. David DeCastro are the only solidified guys still in that line. So if they can kind of find a way to get tougher there and have like some young diamonds in the rough that come out and play well, they might be in better shape. But when they're good, they're establishing the run and really pounding people up front.
Jeremy, is there any team in the AFC that feels more pressure than Baltimore? Seems to me like they are in a position where they need to go win a playoff game, and they need to. It feels like it. They put so much on themselves last year in that regular season loss to Kansas City, and it seemed like when they got punched, it was hard to get off the mat. Although they had their way with us, obviously, and had some success against the Browns, but by and large, it does feel like there's a lot of pressure on that situation over in Baltimore. How do you read it?
Yeah, I think it depends on your perspective of most pressure. Right? You could argue the Bengals have the most because they've won only a handful of games in 2 years, and Zach Taylor probably needs to have a season closer to 500 to maybe save his job. But with Baltimore, clearly they feel like it's time to break through and be contenders now. They've been regular season contenders the last few years, kind of falling flat in the playoffs. And, it was weird in free agency because they were trying to add receivers. They looked at a few. Juju Smith-Schuster is one. They settled on Sammy Watkins after Smith-Schuster decided to re-sign, so that they're trying to upgrade the passing game. And you at least wonder if some receivers don't want to go there because they know they're not going to get the ball. But it's a very similar situation to Pittsburgh in that, their defense is still really solid. And they're always going to tough out wins. That's just their MO in Baltimore. I'm never going to discount Baltimore, Pittsburgh, considering the track record recently. I just don't see rebuilds there. And look, they still feel like Lamar Jackson, even though the numbers haven't been there passing, I mean, he's still one of the most electric players in this league. I think he'll figure it out how to get it done in the playoffs eventually. I was surprised they committed to the offensive system and not maybe adding a passing game coordinator, adding a new dimension where you can develop a passing game that kind of became a little stale and predictable last year. That's really going to be the jump. Can a Sammy Watkins and a draft pick maybe elevate that passing game to where you can be more vertical?
Yeah, it certainly seems like that. You touched on the stuff down in Cincinnati with Zach. Do you think there is? They don't pay coaches not to coach down in Cincinnati. You think that there is real pressure on Zach Taylor?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they always wanted to bring him back for a third year, but it's got to be progress. And so, especially with Joe Burrow, they don't want to waste that window. They really like him. The offensive line will be better because they could draft Penei Sewell. Even if they don't, they picked up Riley Reif and will draft somebody on the line in the first couple rounds. So they got to improve there. I think they're kind of an exciting team in a way. They got a couple intriguing pass catching options. Heck, if they go get up Kyle Pitts in the first round, then you're talking about taking that offense to a new stratosphere even. So, they're still probably last in the divisional rankings right now if I had to rank them. But that's a team that I think maybe has the most upside.
Well, it'd be interesting. I mean, if Burrow doesn't have the injury, you certainly feel that way. You just hope he comes back, and everything sounds like he is, that he is coming back good from that. Jeremy, really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for the time.
Hey, anytime, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Jeremy Fowler, ESPN senior NFL reporter. Gibby, you have a note for us, do you, my friend?
I do, my friend. Our good friend Rap Sheet with a little more of an indication on what is to transpire over this week with Jadeveon Clowney and the Browns. Clowney set to fly to Cleveland Tuesday night. Visit with the Browns on Wednesday, a source said. His second visit to the team. Nothing imminent right now, but the two sides have maintained contact and share a mutual interest.
I don't know how to read that.
I have no idea how to read that. Like, nothing imminent, but
like
they
you've been
share
here
mutual
once.
interest, and I'm flying in for a second meeting and a physical.
Yeah. The only thing I can think, and we won't know the details to this until he's signed or not signed, is if there was somebody who wasn't here the first time he was here, that he would need to talk to, be it a Joe Woods or somebody like that he would want to talk to, maybe Miles, Sheldon, those type of people. Maybe they weren't there, and now they are going to be here. If this is not necessarily a place that he wanted to play previously, and now maybe is coming around, and I'm just hypothesizing,
Sure.
but that doesn't. It's just a strange circumstance to come in for a second time and still trying to be in a feeling out process. You just wonder if there's somebody who will be here this time who can say, "Yeah, dude, trust me, you're going to like it."
Just a weird courtship.
Yeah.
It
is.
I
agree.
Been.
I mean, we've been talking about him for a long time, Gibbs. Long time. We've been talking about Clowney. So not just this year, but last year as well. So, and it seems like it would be a good fit for everybody. But you got to have guys who want to be here, and we'll find out about that as we get closer and as that courtship certainly continues. Coming up here in about 15 minutes from now, Michael-Sean Dugar of the Seahawks covers the Seahawks for The Athletic. We'll ask him about Clowney and what he saw last year from him in Seattle. You have that to look forward to, which is nice. Lots of fun on the program today, in fact, including as we go around the league, a former Buckeye great moving on to the college ranks. So we will get to that as well. Listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop here. Winter weather devastating on your home, which means it's time for you to call the pros at Perfect Power Wash. Dirt, mold, algae accumulate on the exterior of your home, and they lead to costly damages. PPW's safe process, professional technicians help remove these contaminants to keep your house looking protected. Do what I did. Call the pros today. 888-860-WASH. Save 10%. Take advantage of priority scheduling. The whole process couldn't be any easier. One call does it all. The professionals at PPW are going to provide you a free quote. They're going to schedule your service. So if you want a perfectly clean home this spring, call the pros, 888-860-WASH, or visit perfectpowerwash.com. And remember, the early bird gets the savings on this one. So call 888-860-WASH today. Use the promo code BEAU to save 10% on that. So who won our Masters thing? You won, right? But the real issue is who lost. And that's where I think there's some discrepancy.
Oh, why do you think there's discrepancy?
Well, because when we drafted these teams, we were selecting 4 players.
Yes.
Okay? Correct?
Yes.
So we were then creating our Masters competition based on those 4 golfers. Okay? So I have a lot going on. I go look at this thing this morning to see what happened, and I see Zegura beating me, and I go, oh, fine. Well, I guess I don't know how that happened. He had DeChambeau. I know I didn't have somebody as bad as DeChambeau. We both had guys who missed the cut in DJ and McIlroy, so how in the heck did he beat me? This doesn't make sense. Well, then I go and look, and I see that he picked new golfers along the way.
I didn't. So on Friday,
like, was that the game we were playing?
You could pick new golfers after the cut was announced, and I'm like, I don't recall that being an option.
I don't remember us saying let's pick new golfers at the cut line. I remember saying we're picking 4 golfers.
And those are your 4 for the weekend.
Those are your guys.
Yeah. No,
okay. That's how I remember it. I don't remember redraft your team because you're on vacation in Florida.
Yeah.
Because
somehow
it's raining and
I
you're
was
on an
wondering how he ended up with Justin Rose.
Oh, he had Rose? Look at who he had somebody else. I'm like, wait a second, he didn't have these guys. Like, I know he had McIlroy and Dustin Spieth.
He didn't have Spieth.
He didn't have Spieth. He had Dustin Johnson and McIlroy. He had Zalatoris. I had Bobby McIntyre, who actually did pretty well. Zalatoris finished second, so it's a good job out of him. But then I had Justin Thomas, and he had DeChambeau. So Justin Thomas did better than DeChambeau. So by that rationale, I think I'm in the clear.
Yeah, I mean, you had Xander, you had Robert McIntyre. Good job by you.
I
mean, Rory and Dustin cost you. Like, I didn't change any of mine. Brooks Koepka didn't make the cut. Like, he was.
No, he's going in there and he's switching guys in the app.
Yeah, I feel like he needs to. I think he should be the loser then, because I never changed mine.
Yeah. Now, knowing him like you and I do, there will be a passionate plea that he is being cheated and that it's our fault that we did not follow the rules of the app, and that we just simply did not take advantage of this. My counter to that, in a very calm manner, as I would do in this argument, would be that the game that was on the Masters app and our competition are not the same. We simply use that as the parameters to pick our 4 golfers.
Once you picked your 4, those were your 4.
Those are your guys. That's the way I played it.
Correct.
That's the way I thought.
So
yeah.
the scoring, I ended up with 71 points. I did not make any changes. You did not make any changes. You finished last with 48. Zegura finished second with 50 and made changes.
Made a lot of changes.
Made two big changes.
Yes, correct. Yeah. That I think goes against what our competition was. Our competition was these 4 golfers.
Yes.
Not sub them in throughout the weekend. Who's got time for that? I don't have time for that.
Certainly
jumping on apps.
Had I pulled out my laptop at any point this weekend, in a non-working weekend in the off season, I can assure you, or even my phone to look at the app, especially on Saturday, it would have gone about as well as you would think it would go.
I spent the whole weekend on the turnpike, so I can't even tell you what the I obviously didn't do any of those things. So there you go. I don't know, man. I'm sure this will make for. I'm sure he'll just agree to this, and that's the way it'll go. He will go quietly in the night, I'm sure.
What
see
year
this?
did
Go ahead.
Matsuyama win the Memorial? Did he win it? He won it, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the story I told off the
Yes.
top with the huge contingent.
Correct.
And yeah, I would say probably like 2013 or 14. Something like that would be my guess.
I just think that guy has been unbelievably consistent year in and year out. Like, every week I feel like he's in the top 10.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So 2014, that's a good job out of me. He won it in 2014 was the year he won it. So, yeah, it's been a little while. It's funny, the guy who was his interpreter that week at Muirfield was the same guy who's the interpreter yesterday in the Green Jacket ceremony, and he's been the interpreter. I think he's a Columbus guy. I think they put him together in Columbus, and Matsuyama liked him, so he's just been his interpreter, kind of through the whole thing.
Really?
I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, pretty sure he's a Columbus guy.
That whole thing in Butler Cabin just felt awkward. I don't.
Well, we had.
I mean,
one of the things.
Yeah.
One of the things we had when he won, so we had a deal where we always got to go one-on-one with the winner. Whoever won it, we got to go one-on-one. Even Tiger would do one-on-one because that was, the type of clout that station I had. And, Hideki doesn't speak English. I'm guessing it's better now, but probably not good enough where he feels comfortable taking questions from Jim Nantz and Butler Cabin. But spoke no English when he won the Memorial in 14. And my buddy was like on live TV was kind of wrapping his head around because part of our coverage is always the one-on-one with the winner. And like on live TV, I'll send you the clip in the break. He's going, well, that could be a bit of a challenge, that one-on-one, considering he doesn't speak any English. That'll be a little bit of a challenge for us to go to one-on-one with Hideki. So, yeah, I mean, he just really pretty cool the whole way through. I mean, he went wayward just on the one hole, but was pretty steady and felt like it was just a matter of time coming for him too, winning it. I mean, he's been kind of the chosen one for a very, very long time.
Did you see Zalatoris's one club? It was his one wedge, and what is transcribed on the bottom?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Can we talk about that?
So great. So his resemblance of the caddy and Happy Gilmore, I mean, it's there. And both Happy Gilmore and Shooter McGavin leaned into it, and so Zalatoris leaned into it, and then he had inscribed on the wedge, what does it say? I'm happy to caddy for you anytime.
It says,
you have
Mr.
it?
Gilmore, I'm your caddy.
Amazing.
And Shooter McGavin tweets, Will Zalatoris is a legend for this.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, he leaned into it. I think that was a lot of fun. I really do. I thought it was great. So I enjoyed it. I don't know if the ratings will be great for it just because of, that there wasn't a lot of names on the board. I'll tell you, I thought about this over the weekend. One of the most incredible streaks of Tiger is consecutive cuts made in the majors. That is a remarkable thing, the cuts in the majors, because when you watch as Koepka and Rory and Dustin Johnson don't make cuts, and to think that he did it for all those years, he made every cut, and to think that these guys don't on a regular basis miss them, it's one of his more remarkable accomplishments, because none of those guys were in the mix. None of them.
I'm still baffled what happened with Dustin Johnson, the world's number one, who's been playing like the world's number one.
Playing well.
Just
yep. And of course he likes.
Disappearing act.
Yeah, we'd never finished. I mean, it'd been a long time since he finished over par on a round at Augusta, and he was just done, totally done. So hard to say. Last year, of course, Jadeveon Clowney in Tennessee. 2 years ago, a full season, though, in Seattle, where he was pretty good. Our next guest will shed some light on what he saw from Clowney then and what he could mean to the Browns now. That is coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You guys are down
All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Time to head on the hotline and visit with Michael-Sean Dugar, Seahawks reporter for The Athletic, joining us. Michael-Sean, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's just start with 2 years ago when you guys had Jadeveon in Seattle. What did you make of him in terms of the way that he bought into the team, in terms of what he did on the field and off?
The buy-in wasn't a question. Well, I should say the first thing is when I saw him in person, I was like, man, okay, I see why someone took him number one overall. And then I was reminded that, like, he was, like, the number one high school prospect and also, like, the number one guy coming out of college. Like, dude had been number one for a very long time. And I think me and him are close to the same age. Actually, we were exactly the same age. So I just looked at him and was like, man, that is a physically, like, freaky dude. Like, all the stuff that you see on TV or read, like, it makes sense. Like, see him in the locker room, coming out of the shower or something. But the on-field stuff was interesting because you would think that, and this is pretty similar to, like, basketball, where if you got a star, it kind of makes everything easier for the other guys who aren't stars, right? They get open shots, whatever, get cuts to the basket. You would think there'd be a similar impact with someone as talented as JD up front with the pass rush group, and it never really materialized. Like, he was fine, like, his pressure numbers were cool and all that, but outside of their Week 10 Monday Night Football game against San Francisco when he was, like, the best player on the field, I didn't see many games where I was like, oh, okay, he's playing better because he's playing next to number 90. You know what I mean? And that's what when I got past the physical part of him, I was like, I wanted to see that. And that was never really a consistent thing, which I thought was pretty interesting.
It's funny. Everything you said there is kind of a microcosm of his career, isn't it? In terms of a guy who you see him and you go, wow, I get it. Like, pick him number one overall. That's the future of the position right there. And he's had these flashes, but never, on the field, the dominant player in moments, certainly, but over the course of their consistency, hasn't been there sometimes. The production hasn't been there, has the way that a lot of people did. We think the fit here would be great opposite Miles, and that there would be a real potential for a career renaissance of sorts. From an on-the-field, week-in, week-out perspective, how noticeable was he?
Oh, very much. I don't know the correct way to say that properly, but he was, I guess, is the best way to do that. I really think going back and looking at, like, the most famous plays from his college career, right, was kind of more telling than I think we wanted to realize, right? What is it? It's a run stop, right? And that is what he's, like, really elite at, in my opinion. I'm not no pass rush expert or anything, but I always thought, like, some of his best plays were, like, chasing down the backside of a run play, or just, like, making sure that dude, if he was going to cut JD's way, you're hitting the ground, right? Or just getting in the backfield and saying, hey, you guys probably drew up this play in the huddle. It sounded great. And then Jadeveon's is like, no, it's not. Here's -3 yards. On a run play, though, I think that was always the thing that showed up the most. And then every once in a while, I was like, oh, yeah, there's a sack. I think he had like 3.5 sacks or something his year here. But I'm pretty sure he had way more TFLs on run plays, right? Because I think that was kind of his thing, whereas and he's not billed as that. Like, people who are really nerdy into all the numbers and stuff like that, and people who watch film on him would say, yeah, elite run stopper, really good, pass rusher. But when you get Jadeveon Clowney on your team, or your team wants Jadeveon Clowney, you are thinking we are getting pass rusher. And you're getting someone who can rush the passer, but is really elite at stopping the run. And then you get into this whole thing about, like, positional value and how much you should pay a guy who's good at that in a league where, like, passing is the thing. And I think that's the question teams have to ask themselves whenever they pursue someone like Jadeveon Clowney who wants to be paid like an elite pass rusher.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. How serious were the Seahawks about bringing him back last year before he went to Tennessee?
They wanted him back for sure. Like, serious depends on who you ask. Seahawks would probably say we're very serious. His agent would probably be like, well, not serious enough. It's relative in that regard. But they definitely wanted him back because they didn't really have any answers with their pass rush. Like, if nothing else, they knew they were losing who was at the time their best pass rusher, which is why they had to go make 2 trades, 6 months later to replace him. They traded for Jamal Adams, who for a time was their best pass rusher, and they traded for Carlos Dunlap, who then became their best pass rusher. So he definitely elevates a group for sure. The question for Seattle was how much can he elevate us? Because I think he went into, he went into free agency, his people were telling people in the league, like, hey, we want what DeForest Buckner ultimately ended up getting, which I think was like 21. Like he wanted to be in that range, but it just, if you're like, you looked at his production in Seattle, it's like, well, Seattle had you, and they were still one of the worst pass rushers in the league. So if you're not elevating the group, how much can we really pay you if we still need to pay other guys to be good too? And I think that's the question Seattle had. And the answer was, well, we can only pay you like, I think they offered him like 13, 14 million maybe. And that was nowhere near in his ballpark, even though he eventually signed for something similar, I think.
Yeah, certainly. Michael-Sean Dugar, our guest, covers the Seahawks for The Athletic. Let me ask you about the team that you cover, Seattle. And, boy, in simplest terms, what happened last year? So elite throwing the ball for so long, and then it seems like it fell off a cliff the last quarter of the season. What, from your vantage point, how did that get so off the rails?
I think we really, I just mean like everyone. It's not just media or coaches or fans or players. We really underestimate the value of people in this business. Like, it is very much a people-driven business. And it's not just film study. It's not just innovation with the play calling. It's not just athletes or whatever. It's people. It's relationships. And when that stuff is not going well, your on-field product can be negatively impacted. I mean, look at all the deep dives you see, whether it's the Bleacher Report deep dive on the Green Bay situation, the one we did on Russ, the one our Philly guys just did on what happened with the Eagles. Whenever you get one of these deep dives into the mess that a situation is, it usually starts because this relationship with person A and person B went sour and person C didn't like it or whatever. And I say all that to say when the relationships behind the scenes aren't going well, which they weren't in Seattle because of a difference in philosophies, between Russ, Pete Carroll, the OC was kind of stuck in the middle, but more on Russ's side. When all of that stuff's not going well, eventually it'll burn you. Like, Seattle's used to that. I mean, they had a guy punch another guy in the face the day before the Super Bowl, which they won by 30. So they can get over stuff, but eventually it will burn you. And I think that more than anything with DK saying they got figured out or whatever, it was the fact that behind the scenes it wasn't great. And they were able to mask it for 8 weeks playing some bad defenses, and eventually they played the best defense in the league 3 times in a 3-month span. And Brandon Staley kicked their butt. And it really exposed the chemistry issues that they were having behind the scenes that were impacting the on-field product.
I love the incredible piece that you guys did in The Athletic on the Russell Wilson situation. We go from, though, a list. We have teams we're going to be traded to now every time I see him do anything, and admittedly, I certainly don't follow him the way that you do. Now I'm seeing Go Hawks, and what's the real truth, as I say to my 5-year-old, in terms of the circumstance with Russ and the Seahawks now?
Russ is like us. He's like a normal human being, even though he comes off as someone very polished and robotic and a press release personified, I guess. Russ wants to be where he's at. He just wants it. It's conditional, right? Like, he's like, oh, if this sucks, then I want to bounce. That's everyone. You like your job until it stinks, then you want a new one. That's just kind of you like your relationship until it stinks. It's just kind of what it is. You like your car until it doesn't run well anymore.
Yeah.
You like your house until the roof, caves in. So, I mean, that's kind of where Russ is at right now. It's like, I like it in Seattle. It's cool. We win. But if it's not to my liking anymore, if I see flaws in what's going on, then I would like to leave. So what happened and kind of what we reported on was him telling Seattle, look, I like it here. But if we're not going to get any better, if this is all there is to it, then I would like to leave. I mean, if I do leave, here's where I would like to go. Make it happen, unless priority number 1 is making me happy. Priority number 2, if you can't do that, is getting me out of here. So, like, that, the simplest way I could put it, Russ is cool here, until it's not good enough for him. And I don't think that's dissimilar to most human beings in their current situation.
So to take the analogy a step further, if the roof is caving in on the house, he doesn't want to be a part of fixing the roof.
Well, it's also, he can't, he's like a guy, to keep it going, he can't fix the roof. Like, I don't know how to fix roofs, right? I just know how to exist in the house and do the other stuff. But if you're not going to have someone fix the roof, then I'll go to a house that has a regular roof. You know what I mean? Like, get me out of here. And, like, he plays a role in, like, the upkeep of the house, but he doesn't fix roofs, right? And if you're not going to, like, let him even pay someone to fix it, or you're not going to pay someone to fix it, then I'm just going to move. That's kind of where he's at with it.
So basically, I'm Russell Wilson, because I'm that way. I'm not fixing roofs either, buddy. I'll tell you that. This was a great conversation. I appreciate it a great deal.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, that's Michael-Sean Dugar, covers the Seahawks for the Athletic with some shedding some great light on the Jadeveon Clowney situation in Seattle from 2 years ago, how well he played. He is noticed. I think if you're looking for kind of some notes from that interview in terms of what you would be getting should Clowney sign here, he is noticeable, if not in the sack numbers, in the pressure rate and in his ability to really set the edge and get the run game stopped before it ever gets started. And I think that's why he would be a really great fit for Joe Woods' defense opposite Myles Garrett. And I think some of the rush packages that you could put together with him and Myles out there at the same time, with Sheldon as well, I think could be, frankly, quite scary. So we'll see where this goes. The latest on this reporting is according to Ian Rappaport, there will be a travel day tomorrow and then a meeting on Wednesday between Jadeveon Clowney and the Browns. That was originally scheduled to happen today. There were some delays in travel, as reported by Jacina Anderson. So reportedly, according to Ian Rappaport, that will happen over tomorrow night and into Wednesday on Clowney meeting with the Browns, reportedly. Plenty to get to here in the second hour of the program, including some interesting comments from our buddy J.C. Trenner. Also, Mike Florio and Chris Sims with an interesting conversation about the Browns and the draft. We get to all of that coming up here in the final hour. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Second hour here, Cleveland Browns Daily on a Monday edition of the program. Did you see this? Darren Ravel, I guess he gives credit to the author of the tweet, but a guy took a picture. Hideki Matsuyama was on his 6:45 a.m. flight to Chicago, likely to connect to Tokyo, which seems natural to draw that conclusion. He's just hanging out by himself at the Atlanta airport with the green jacket draped over the seat.
Yeah. I mean, literally,
isn't that great?
He walked through security. Like there. I saw another photo earlier today of him literally just carrying it with it draped over his arm. Which, I mean, I guess if you've won the green jacket, you're not really wanting to check that. I feel like you probably want to hold on to that somehow.
No, wear it, man.
I would wear it, but. And again, as we talked about earlier, the language barrier, well, I don't think it was as bad as when he won it at the Memorial. Like,
yeah,
he knows enough, and he doesn't know enough, where he can wear that coat, and you could talk to him all day long, and he doesn't have to answer. He doesn't.
No, it certainly does not.
Yeah.
Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Northeast Factory Direct. If you're sick and tired of your outdated kitchen, this is the perfect time to upgrade it and go see my friends at Northeast Factory Direct. They've got high-quality name-brand furniture and hot tubs. They're about half the price as the fancy retail stores, but at Northeast you can also get high-quality cabinets. This is incredible. 60 to 7% less than the expensive kitchen remodeling stores, and it's really easy. Make an appointment, bring in some basic measurements, and they're going to walk you through everything. And the best part of this is the appointment and the design. Yes, even the design, that's all free. Northeast Factory Direct cuts out all the costs associated with traditional stores. You can buy nice stuff at really incredible prices. They also have 0% financing available. That's right, 0% financing available. Get there now. If you're thinking about remodeling your kitchen, it's simple. Go to northeastfactorydirect.com, schedule your appointment today, and get it sorted out. Let's reset the story of the day. A lot of momentum last night, Gibbe, about Jadeveon Clowney on a visit to Cleveland that was supposed to happen today. That meeting has been delayed, reportedly. Josina Anderson with the information right before we started the show that there was some confusion and some travel things that happened, and so they were trying to rebook for later in the week. And then we got news from Ian Rappaport, NFL.com, that the Clowney transportation up here will be tomorrow, with his visit with the Browns coming on Wednesday, reportedly, of this week, as that second meeting between Clowney and the Browns will take place later in the week.
Yeah, and I know
reportedly
there's a video clip circulating because Rap Sheet was just on with Pat McAfee, and short of taking 20 minutes to have to edit the video, because with our good friend Pat McAfee, you know what you get.
Yep.
His biggest thing was, look, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope I'm not on Jadeveon Clowney watch all summer. He goes, I'd like to be able to enjoy my summer. And knock on wood, hopefully Browns fan will get their wish as well. And you will too, and you'll get to play golf, Rap Sheet.
Well, I would think that if you're Andrew Berry, the reason that you want this done is you want it done before the draft. I think he wants every I that he can have dotted and every T that he can have crossed, and I think he wants them all done by the time we get to the draft here in Cleveland at the end of the month. So if you get this other defensive end, we said they needed two. They got one in Takk McKinley already on board, former first-round pick. You add Clowney, not a position of need, but because of everything else we've done, you can be in a position to take the best player available now. You're not in a position where you have to force a defensive end at the end of the draft. So I think it's really important for Andrew Berry to have this deal done before the draft.
I think the way that this is played out, and again, we don't. This is no reading between lines or scores or anything like that.
No scores.
There's no scores till Zegura comes back on Thursday. He's our scores guy. But at the end of the day, it just appears he wants all the ducks in a row, and when the draft ends, that ends the addition of major contributors to the football team for the 2021 season. Everything after that is probably gravy. And this is it. This is our squad. Let's start getting it ready for camp, and then let's start getting it ready for the season.
I'll take you a step further. I think not only is that true, I think that he wants to go into, and I think he will go into this draft and say, The only players that we add to this roster after this point, the only planned additions to this roster after this point will be draft picks and undrafted free agents. That's it. That everything else is going to be sorted out. The type of consistency that we have and the continuity that we have offensively, I don't know if this organization's ever had, where you're bringing every starter back and every coaching, everybody on the coaching staff back. That's can't imagine the last time that happened with this organization. It's rare around the NFL, let alone here. We've had so much turnover giving.
Yeah, it really it has positioned us well to really just be seamless. And now all you do is just you pray and you knock on wood, no one gets hurt, and we'll see everybody healthy, and let's go play a football season and see how it all shakes out. Zach Miller tweets at the show, help me understand, help in caps. Insights appreciated. Okay. Has Clowney underperformed? Is he still elite and an assassin for hire? Is he older and lost a step? What's the recall on Clowney beyond the name recognition? I mean, he is a little bit older.
I would say this. Yeah, I would say this. It's possible that, and I think likely, that Jadeveon Clowney is a really great defensive player, but not the player that people thought he would be when he was drafted. And what people thought he would be when he was drafted is, frankly, Myles Garrett. Is what you thought you were getting. I mean, he was the number one high school football player in the country. He was a player that going into his junior year at South Carolina, people thought he shouldn't even play. Because he was going to be, why risk it? He's the number one overall pick no matter what. Like, he was that type of sure thing. And for whatever reason, despite having a high pressure rate and being elite against run defense, he has not had the sack numbers that go with the people who typically play that position and are drafted in that spot. All of that being said, I think you could make an argument that if healthy, he is the perfect opposite of Myles Garrett.
Yes.
He would be a perfect opposite of Myles Garrett. And what he would do is set an incredible edge, and he would allow for your linebackers and safeties, we're going to play a lot of that three safety look, to run and tackle. And so he would be exactly what the doctored order, I think, for this Joe Woods defense.
He doesn't have to be the man. That guy's on the other side of the defensive line. You know, that guy is one of the premier defensive players in the NFL. That being said, for Pro Football Focus to rank him as the fourth best free agent edge rusher in free agency, the man's still got something left, and his play has allowed others on the defense to make plays. And if you can get the guy that lined up on the other side of J.J. Watt in Houston back in the day, 5 years ago, I mean, you've got something pretty special. And again, it just allows everybody else to make plays, and that's ultimately, he doesn't have to be the man. He just has to go in and do his job. And if he does his job, they're going to be successful.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, so much of it is based on, when you say to be the man, he was drafted to be the man and be what Myles has been for us. And while the career maybe hasn't been that, he's been very, very good and would be very, very good here, in my estimation. This kind of got lost. This happened over the weekend. Mary Kay Cabot chronicling it for Cleveland.com. Our center, NFLPA President J.C. Treader, along with the NFLPA, urging players to boycott in-person OTAs and minicamps amid the ongoing pandemic. So this is a tricky spot for everybody involved right here. We played a season last year without OTAs, with minimum even training camp the way we're used to. This has gone a long way. I mean, just ask Deke, and compared to where it used to be to where it is now in terms of what camp is. But players are saying, hey, this isn't needed. We delivered a season. We did it fine. The quality was great. We don't need these things. There's no question that the players probably aren't crazy about playing the 17th game, certainly this soon into this agreement, but they did agree to that, to that being part of the new CBA, so that's part of it. And this could be something that is a reality of teams pushing back and saying, players pushing back rather, and saying, look, we're not going. They are, after all, optional team activities. These are not mandatory. So you could do that, and while we're in kind of a transition phase with the pandemic, of getting a lot of people vaccinated and returning back to some form of normal, whatever normal will be when we're done with all of this. I can see this carrying a little bit of weight with the NFLPA and the Players Association this spring and into summer.
Yeah, I think, and the off-season program is slated to start 1 week from today. So there is a bit of a timetable to get something done and something figured out. Now, the NFLPA, and J.C. Treader is the president of that, but the NFLPA is a union. It is a much bigger it's much bigger than just J.C. Treader. And I mean, they're telling their guys, look, it's voluntary, and like we were able to do stuff. And I think the good thing is that this is a league issue. Would the coaches love to have the players back in the building for the off-season stuff? Absolutely. I think they've all told us that over interviews. But at the same time, every single one of those coaches, from position coaches all the way up to Kevin Stefanski, has said, look, if it's going to be virtual, we already have a plan for it because, well, we did it a year ago, and it worked out just fine. So we're ready to pivot and go in either direction that we have to.
That's the beauty of this group, is that they're always prepared for whatever comes. They'll be prepared both ways. And I do think that this will be an ongoing conversation between, NFLPA and ownership in terms of what this will look like long term going forward, and if the optional part of it will be put more into action than it has been in previous years. OTAs was typically something where almost everybody shows up. It's optional, but not really. It could be, especially this year amidst an ongoing pandemic, it could be certainly the optional gets put into play a little bit. So it's certainly something worth monitoring over the course of the next couple of weeks. And hard to believe, but yeah, coming that quickly is OTAs. Coming up next, our buddies from Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, Chris Sims, with an interesting conversation about what the Browns should do in the draft. We will have that for you coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be sure to catch the latest edition of the best podcast available out now wherever you get your podcasts or by going to the youtube.com/Browns. Fox Sports college football reporter and the Athletics' Bruce Feldman. He's good. He's going to join the Ibs boys to preview this year's draft. Did you see that well, of course you've seen it because it's your burner account that you have now gone public. I congratulate you with your own burner account, which is legitimately your burner account.
I saw it this morning, and I was like, I didn't see that coming when I started my career 21 years ago, 22 years ago.
Imagine explaining that to you 22 years ago. You're going to have a burner account parroting your own burner accounts on a thing called Twitter.
The best was I've liked every one of his tweets on the CBD account. So
yes. Oh, that's good. That's
I have
good.
no idea.
Nice
I honestly
job.
have no idea who it is,
whoever
but
it
I'm
is.
thoroughly entertained by it.
Yeah, it's a good job out of them, to say the least. Always a good job. We can hear from our guys Mike Florio and Chris Sims, and they had a conversation about what we should do in the draft. Let's have a listen.
And
You're down.
Move to the Browns as we look at the AFC North draft needs. The Browns can't leave draft weekend without addressing what? And before we answer that, you mentioned 26th overall pick. They also have an extra pick in the third and an extra pick in the fourth, Chris.
Yeah, I think the one that would jump out to me more than anything, and we've hit the two positions I think that they need the most, pass rusher, and to me the next one is middle linebacker. Again, this I hate to say this and keep repeating this, but it's the Seattle scheme. There's a formula that's expected within this with this defense. You need a legit fly around linebacker. They need their Bobby Wagner, their Fred Warner, their Miles Jack, their Deion Jones, the guy in Dallas from Notre Dame, the middle linebacker. I'm blanking on his name. But these
Jalen Smith.
Yeah, right, Jalen Smith. They're Darius Leonard from the Indianapolis Colts. It's all the same defensive scheme. It's all. They're all doing it. And that to me is where that's what the Browns need, is that guy. They need a speed linebacker. And there should be one there, at the end of the first round. It'd be interesting to see who's available, but I think that's the position I'll probably say they need more than anything coming away from the draft in those first few rounds.
To answer the question strictly and literally, the Browns can't leave draft weekend without addressing blank running back because of Nick Chubb. They've yet to sign him to a new contract. They've got Kareem Hunt under contract. If they get lucky and throw a dart and get a guy who can come in and be Nick Chubb, post Nick Chubb, you don't have to pay Nick Chubb $13, $14, $15 million a year to keep him around for 2022 if you choose to go that route. It's a tough move for a team to make, and we see most of these teams who cultivate great running backs find a way to extend the relationship and pay the guy a lot of money. The Browns, very heavy on the analytics of any team out there that would be willing to say to a star running back, see you later, and sorry fans, if you bought the guy's jersey, you should have known not to buy running back jerseys for Cleveland Browns players if we're going to go heavy on the analytics, because we're going to find a guy dollar for dollar far more effective than Nick Chubb. One way to do that, Chris, use one of those third-round or fourth-round picks on the best available running back. That's where you can find some great running backs who can develop into among the best in the NFL.
No doubt. That would be nice. That certainly would be. I mean, yes, to not have to worry about, signing that big contract or have that running back have to do that. I get you. Either way, they got Chubb. That was Chubb's third year, right? Last year. So
this is his contract year.
This is the contract year. This is the year either way. Yeah. I mean, you make a solid point. There's no doubt about it. He's special. He really is. He's one of the 5 best running backs in football. And I think really, realistically, it's the best duo in football, right? At the running back position, is there a better duo?
Yes.
Your one in Minnesota is pretty damn good, but this is right there at the top, I think.
But they bought Kareem Hunt so low as a result of the things that happened when he was on the Chiefs. They have him locked up to a very, very favorable deal. I'm just telling you, I don't think the Browns are going to flinch the way that we've seen Vikings, Titans, Panthers, Saints flinch just to keep around a guy who's regarded as a great running back because that next great running back is always coming. And the reality is, what is the shelf life? What's the real shelf life for a running back? What is it? Right? Derrick Henry with 2,000 rushing yards this year, now entering year number 6. How many more years can Derrick Henry do it? How long does any running back consistently play at a high level like that? Adrian Peterson is the only one we've seen in the last 20 years to do it.
No, I mean,
Frank Gore, and future Hall of Famer Frank Gore.
Right.
Don't want to overlook him.
Yeah. But like even that though, I mean, Adrian Peterson's really good. There's no, I mean, he's a superstar. Frank Gore's superstar. Yes, but I mean, like you're talking about, that's 2 guys in 20 years. Derrick Henry, he's kind of a freak show himself too. He's different, so he might be able to last a little bit longer. But we're seeing with other guys that's not the case. It's definitely not. And I don't know, they're in Cleveland, as far as like a team that seems to be heavy on the analytics and things like that. I think, Mike, you make a valid point. There's no doubt about that. Listen, drafting running backs this day and age now, and even like I have to do my running back rankings on my podcast today. We're going to break this down. One of the thoughts I went into, or you have to erase out of your brain, is like, screw long term. That thought doesn't exist. Like, don't evaluate running backs coming out in the draft to be like, well, I think this guy could last 6 or 7 years. No.
Back in 15.
Running back going, how awesome is he going to be for 3 or 4 years? And then I'm thinking I got to get a new one. That's all there is to it. You can't expect anything else out of that position with how violent it is. So it's a good point by you. It's a good.
You're up.
Very interesting things there, Gibby. Here's what I would say. I think when you first hear it, and you saw my expression on our personal Zoom when I first heard what he said, my thinking was that he was going to say at pick 26, go running back at pick 26. He said 3rd or 4th round, could you go running back to see if you strike lightning in a bottle. That I could see. I think it's down the list. If you're going offensive skill position in, honestly, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round, I would think receiver would be the one that you would throw it out there at and try to make, so I think even tight end, because you have the Chiefs situation, like maybe tight end is a spot in the skill where if you find somebody, how much Coach loves the tight ends. I think running back's a little down on the pecking order. I understand his reasoning for it. I do think, though, that one thing that while this is a front office that is analytics driven, I do think that they will be, the word we keep coming back to is traits, elite traits. Nick Chubb has elite traits. Do I think that this front office would, and this is always going to, you and me and Z, we've been talking about this for months, kind of in the background because it's a tough conversation to have, but do I think that this front office would pay Nick Chubb what the Cowboys paid Ezekiel Elliott? No, I do not. I don't. I don't think that adds up. Do I think they could do a Derrick Henry type deal? Short run, high max money? Yeah. That, to me, is more of a fit for the thinking of this front office. I know how much Nick Chubb is loved by this organization, by this coaching staff, by this front office. I think you'd love to find a way to keep him involved because he has those elite traits that we talk about. But I don't – and I think what your first thing is when you hear that, you think, well, we're not taking a running back in the first round. That's crazy. But then he did say 3rd or 4th, and if somebody fell, look, we're in a position now where if we can make the roster better, we'll do it no matter the position, truly.
Yes, and that if you have to literally NFL redshirt a kid for a season until they're able to play or until you have an opening for them to play, we saw what they did last year with Harrison Bryant at tight end. At the time, we didn't need a tight end. And we had just signed the best one on the free agent market. It didn't matter. On day 3, he was available. We went and we picked him up.
Yep.
I guess my whole thing is, and I mean, there's always a risk of injury. There's always something. Mm-hmm. But that guy shows up every day and never says a word, and you never hear from him. He stays out of trouble. He lets his play create the headlines, and I'm telling you, that guy can have a longer career than what you and I think, and especially with the fact that you've got Kareem Hunt there to help alleviate some of that pressure and that those hits and all
question.
that.
Yeah. Now I think he's here for a long time.
Yes,
I just don't think that I don't think that it's going to be a situation where you're going to do some of the deals that were done in Dallas or the Gurley deal with the Rams. I don't think you'll see that just because the market at that position, it just doesn't dictate that you have to. It doesn't dictate that you have to do that. So that's a part of it. The other thing, Chris said middle linebacker. So he said pass rusher and middle linebacker in the first round. So a couple of things on that. And this would be a question, again, where if we got a chance to talk to Joe Woods, and I don't know if he'd be candid with you before the draft or not, but my hunch is that you can get some of what Chris is talking about out of the third safety. So some of that sideline to sideline fly around Bobby Wagner, if you're playing three safeties, that can be a combination of Ronnie Harrison, John Johnson, Grant Delpit. One of those guys can be that guy if you're in that three safety look. So that would be the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say on that front is I don't know if there is – I don't think there's appreciation in the football world for how much this organization thinks of Jacob Phillips. I don't know that that's appreciated, how high they think the ceiling is on Jacob Phillips to do some of that stuff. We do have Walker on this team as well. We just picked up tackling machine from Indy. But in terms of guy who can run and fly, I think Jacob Phillips could fill a lot of that stuff, and I think they like him a lot more than the football world knows. The other thing I would say is we are talking about, again, let's go back to it, at 26, elite traits. If Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is there, the linebacker out of Notre Dame, do I think that would give you pause? Yeah, I do. I do. I think that would give you pause. He is a missile, and you put him on a defense and just let him make plays, yeah, I think you'd be interested in that. Another name to remember here, and he's without question the most mocked to us, is Zaven Collins out of Tulsa, who is in that mold as well. Now, those guys are two linebackers, but they're really just tackling machines, and you use them all over the place, and they both have elite traits, which is what I think we will be in high pursuit of at pick 26.
And they are fast. It's all about speed now at the linebacker. It's not necessarily how big you are. It is how fast you can move, because you need fast linebackers to cover tight ends like Kyle Pitts. And that brand of tight end that's coming into the NFL. You need speed at the linebacker position as much as anything. That's why they like Phillips, a lot, like you said, a lot more than I think people realize. And the two names you mentioned, if they're on the board, those are the best players available, because that will have meant there will have been a run on corners, there will have been a run on edges, and those guys are falling to you.
That's a great point out of you, Gibby, because I do not think this front office would reach for a corner or an end if there is a linebacker that they have higher on their board, even though it's not a position of great need like maybe corner is. They will not reach for a corner. They will take the best player who's there at 26. And both of the guys, both Owusu-Koramoah and also Collins, are two guys who have those elite traits that I think fit any defense and would make you dangerous going forward. You'd love to have Darius Leonard. You'd love to have Bobby Wagner. You'd love to have Jalen Smith. You'd love to have those type of guys. And if you can get one, you take them. You just don't put a premium on it. I don't think this front office put a premium on it. One falls in your lap, though. I think you run to the board and you pick them. That's my hunch on the way that those things will go. We will go around the league. Eddie George reportedly taking a job coaching a football team. We will get to that. Some news from the draft on the quarterbacks as well. Lots still to come here. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop from my great friends at Weather Seal Home Services. Need a roof replacement? Would you like to replace your roof for the last time? That's the benefit of choosing metal roof technology from Weather Seal. Metal roof technology, materials, styles, and colors have improved significantly. They are beautiful, they are nearly indestructible, and they are affordable, especially with Weather Seal. With a new metal roof from Weather Seal, you also get a 6-inch gutter upgrade, up to 7 years, 0 interest financing on that, guys. That's right, 7 years, 0 interest. Call my guys today, 877-351-SEAL, or visit WeatherSealHomeservices.com. That's 877-351-SEAL, or visit WeatherSealHomeservices.com. Let's go around the NFL, Gibbe. The news over the weekend, it's not confirmed yet, but the head coach at Tennessee State has been fired, so it's about to be confirmed that Eddie George, the former Buckeye and Titan great, will reportedly be named the head coach at Tennessee State. So he is the second prominent former pro who has taken a job at an HBCU. Deion Sanders last year at Jackson State, and now George at Tennessee State. Those are unique opportunities. There's a couple of things that are really, really appealing about those. Having covered one at Florida A&M, you at the 1AA level, when you play at those places, you have an ability to play in front of 80,000 people 3 or 4 times a year because they play those classic games. So Tennessee State plays, I think it's called the Atlanta Classic. They did when I was down there against Florida A&M. It used to be played at the Georgia Dome. I'm assuming it's still being played at Mercedes-Benz, and it is a packed house. It is a cultural event. They are awesome to go to. So you can sell something there that's different than the other 1AA. I also think with everything that has been transpiring in the recent years and last summer on from a racial injustice standpoint, there's an opportunity to appeal to guys who want a different type of college experience than the traditional one. So I think you'll be able to recruit. We've seen that with Deion Sanders down at Jackson State. He's been able to recruit. I've seen this work. Billy Joe was a longtime NFL player with the Jets and the Bills, and I watched him coach Florida A&M to a lot of success. Kenny Riley, who was a standout with the Bengals, coached and was the athletic director at Florida A&M to great success. I've seen it end terribly poorly. Kellen Winslow, the Hall of Famer, not the son, was the athletic director at Florida A&M, and that went miserably. So it can go a lot of different ways. But I do think this is a really interesting trend, and I'm very curious to see if it takes for Eddie and for Deion.
I have to think the biggest key is making sure that you hire really, really good coaches. And by that, I mean guys that know how to coach up players. Because Eddie George is not a coach.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie George is more of an ambassador. No. He's the guy coming in to seal the deal on recruiting. And he's got to figure out game management and things like that. The more you can take off of his plates. Same thing with Deion Sanders. The more you can take off of those guys' plates from a day-to-day operations, from a game management situation, probably the better with things like that. You mentioned playing in big stadiums. I think they play at Nissan Stadium too. I think that might be their home stadium, like where the Titans play. I know.
Yeah, it could very well be.
The 1 year we played down there, we could not load into the stadium because Tennessee State was playing, and it was like a night game, fireworks, and there were like 50,000 people in the stands.
Well, the bands. I mean, the Battle of the Bands are legendary when those teams play. You're right. You have to have great coordinators. And you also have, and this is what's hard because there's not a lot of funding typically at those institutions at the 1AA level. You've got to have recruiting coordinators who work around the clock. Because the one thing that at that level that you have to do is you have to knock down doors. And you have to recruit like a madman. And that takes work. There's nothing easy about that. That takes a lot of work. So that is something that we'll see how long you want to do that. How long do you want to do those things, and how long do you want to put in that work? Because the only way you're going to get these kids, who you are will last for a little bit. But if you're Deion and you're trying to recruit against Mississippi State and Ole Miss, or if you're Eddie George, and I don't know if he'll aspire to do what Deion's trying to do, recruit 3- and 4-star kids to go to 1AA. I don't know if he'll try to do that or not. But if you do, that takes a lot of work. And when you're so accomplished and you're not used to grinding like that for very little payoff, that's what I think will be interesting for those guys, because the money's not there like it is, in the other realm. Now we're going to have two quarterbacks who are going to have pro days in the coming weeks. Justin Fields on Wednesday, now Trey Lance on Monday, the 19th. The 49ers, both the 49ers and the Patriots are confirmed at the Fields Pro Day. I know that for sure, that they are both confirmed at the Fields Pro Day. So I think that is very interesting. Seems to me like Belichick is going to make a move up to get himself a quarterback.
Yeah, what's he have? 10 picks? I feel like he might actually
got a bunch of them.
You know what? He might have more than that. I just saw a tweet from.
I think he's arming himself for an ability to go up and get his quarterback of the future. That's kind of my guess on this on what's going on there.
10 picks, and I want to say they've stockpiled a couple more for next year that he could play with and move around. But yeah, if you're going to Justin Fields Pro Day, you're picking 15th. I think we can all agree Justin Fields won't be there at 15.
No, I can't see any scenario. I think you're hoping that if you have to trade up and move in there somewhere, you can, and you can draft a quarterback there. I don't know if it would be, at 4 or at 5. Who knows if it's Atlanta or if it's the Bengals who have the ability to move. You asked the question, give me the odds for the 49ers to take at number 3, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance of the field. Until I see it, I just can't see Mac Jones being the pick. I just can't see you saying to yourself, let's give up all of this for Mac Jones. I think Justin Fields is superior in every single way. I'm not as familiar with Trey Lance, obviously, because I don't cover North Dakota State.
Yeah.
But I've seen some of the traits on him, and I think that he has some of that elite stuff we're talking about. But until I see it, I will continue to say that Justin Fields goes third to the 49ers. That might just be silly, but I just still think he has more. I just think he brings more to the table than the others, and I think that some of the issues with him are just frankly nonsense, and they're not actually issues at all.
I think it's Fields or Lance at number 3, and then Mac Jones I would put third, and the Field fourth.
Yeah, you're taking a quarterback regardless, and to me, I would want one that can do a little bit of everything. And Jones obviously has limitations, on that front. And I just didn't see it. I mean, pro day or not, you want to talk about Justin Fields, all of that talk about one-read quarterback, which was, was proven to be untrue. How many times did Mac Jones have to come off of those two receivers? Not much.
Correct.
Not much. So I don't see it. I think it'll be Fields or Lance. One or the other will go to the 49ers at 3. And then I think the Falcons will have a real opportunity there if it is the Bills maybe going up to 4, and they could come up and make a deal. Maybe that's where that trade happens. But to me, the biggest winner of this draft right now is the Cincinnati Bengals, because it's really, I remember their fans being so upset that they were going to miss out on Penei Sewell, and I think they're going to have their pick of the litter of the non-quarterbacks in this draft. I think they're going to get the number 1 non-quarterback in this draft at number 5.
You're essentially going to get the number 2 pick in the draft at number 5.
Yeah,
because
at 5.
I think that we can, if it goes QBs 1 through 4, QBs 2, 3, and 4 are not the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best players in the draft. Not by a long shot.
No. I don't think they're, from a sure thing standpoint, they're not Pitts. They're not Jamar Chase. And so you can add somebody like that at 5. That's a pretty big win for the Bengals if it plays out the way that we kind of seem like it's going to. It's not that far away. What are we, 2 weeks from Thursday?
Yes. And by the way, you cannot, if you're Cincinnati, I say you cannot. You can if you're the Bengals, because you're the Bengals and you've done Bengal things.
Right.
I don't know how you can take offensive linemen with the 2 best offensive skill players on the board at number 5.
I don't think you can. I don't think
figure
you can.
out the offensive line.
Yeah, you can figure that out other ways, and I would take. Yeah, I think both Pitts and Chase are elite. Like I said last week, too much is being made of Pitts as a tight end. He's not a tight end; he's a wide receiver. It's not like you're going to be covering him with linebackers anyway. You're going to be covering with safeties or corners. So, either one, whichever one you like, pick one of them. and make your offense truly elite, which I think it really would be. When you talk about Mixon and Burrow, Boyd, they still have Boyd, they have T. Higgins. Now you add either Chase or Pitts, and you get that deep threat that you did not have last year, and that was something that their offense was sorely missing. Here's file this under, are we sure we need this? Kevin Jones is going to play Sean Payton in the upcoming Netflix movie Home Team. The movie will be about Sean Payton's time coaching his son's sixth-grade football team in 2012 when he was suspended for the NFL for his role in Bountygate. That has the potential to be funny.
Kevin James is a funny guy. Paul Blart.
It has the potential to be funny. Yeah. I did not see Paul Blart. But that has the potential to be funny because when you coach your children, they say the damnedest things. So the idea of like an NFL coach coaching a sixth-grade football team, there is some comedy to be had there. My guess is Kevin James will amplify Sean Payton's personality and just do it in his own. It'll be loosely based on that year. And if that's the case, I think it's got a chance for success. I think this has a better chance of being good than that Lakers show that's going to be on HBO, I'll tell you that.
Yes, I agree. I don't. But again, the NFL is making money. I'm not sure if the NBA is or what the NBA is doing right now.
Well, they are. I think they are. I think they do quite well. These new TV deals are only going to get bigger and bigger. It's amazing. Everybody wants the content, man. It's absolutely amazing. I think the beauty here is you avoid one of the hardest things in all of theater to do, which is to recreate professional sports. So you're doing sixth-grade football. That's easy to recreate. Recreating, like if that Lakers series on HBO, like if they're going to recreate games, they've got no chance. Like they need the archive footage of those games. That's the only chance that they have of that being anything other than a distraction, because that'll be tough looking if they do trade. Basketball is the hardest, I think, to recreate. Football, you can shoot it so tight.
It is interesting, by the way, too. The NBA playoffs normally start like a week from now, or a week and a half. Yep. There's no NBA playoffs, I think, till May.
Is that when it is?
After the draft, I think.
Okay.
So
okay.
I mean,
they may actually fare better with that. Not having to go against the draft, not having to go up against, coming off the Masters. They may fare better that way. I don't know. My kids like players at this point, so I don't really.
There'll be plenty of good ones.
Plenty of good ones. A lot of them on just about 2 or 3 teams. But still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Knowing one's limit is important, whether it's a snap count for a football player or a spending limit when you're playing the lotteries. If you like to gamble, set a limit beforehand and stick to it. If you want to learn more, go to keepitfunohio.com for helpful tips on how you can keep gambling fun. Sam Monson, John Ledyard will join the program tomorrow as we inch closer. Hard to believe, just 2 weeks on Thursday from the draft here in Cleveland. Incredible.
Yeah, I guess they're working around the clock. They were working in the rain
Looks
today,
like it.
And the quote was, unless there's lightning, we're working. So
that's what it looked like. I've seen some of the images over the weekend from some of our great reporters who cover the Browns and saw some of those images from down on the lakefront. It looks great. So, I mean, going to be sweet. Going to be a sweet thing. It'll be fun to welcome the NFL to our city. A lot on the line when you think about the first, public event the NFL's had. We did a Super Bowl, but in terms of everybody, the whole league coming since the Combine?
Yeah.
Of 2020?
No pressure. And by the way, you have a governor that's
we'll be fine.
Watching closely to make sure everything is followed accordingly.
30.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, we'll be right. I think we're going to be just fine on that front. You're going to be just fine keeping it locked right here. The next level is coming up next. We're back tomorrow.